New research reveals more subtlety about how income and happiness are related. And that's what we're going to talk about today on Friends Talk Financial Planning. I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel, and I own a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I own a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And before we start to talk about money and happiness, I want just to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button. Subscribing to our show helps other people find this information on YouTube and makes us happy. So
That's true.
With that, I always love this research, Bridget, that you do, that you've done and dug into on, money is a tool to help us do things. And one of the big things is, how does it make us be happier? And there's been some conflicting research, I think, and then maybe some resolution to that.
Well, it's kind of interesting because there's been two major studies that have conflicted. The first is was led by Danny Kahneman, who has won a Nobel Prize, so he gets a lot of attention. And his research said that income makes you happier up to a certain point, and then it levels off. Okay, and it's still a slight increase, but it levels off.
Yeah.
Okay, and that point was much talked about as $75,000. But actually, I told people, hey, that's actually, he was looking at for a household of that was per household, and so it was 40,000 for an individual and 75 for a household. And now that was in 2012. So with inflation numbers and the new research, they're saying it's about 50,000 and 100,000. Okay, so those are the numbers we'll just banter around.
Yeah.
Okay, the other person, Matthew Killingsworth, his research showed no, it just keeps going up. Like happiness and your happiness keeps going up as you earn more. Okay. So this is actually, from my point of view, important thing to consider. One thing is they both agreed that it worked on a logarithmic scale. So the happiness increase you see if your income doubles, not if it just goes up. So sometimes people think like, I earn more than I used to, I should be, a lot happier. Well, the happiness increase really only matters at like a pretty big income increase. Does that make sense? It's, but although people are more familiar with going from maybe 20,000 a year to 40,000 a year, 40,000 a year to 80,000 a year. Okay, same amount of increases at 20 to 40, and then 80 to 160, same amount of increase, right? But that's a lot more money, right? So it does take more money as you go up to get you to have, and they agreed on that in the first place.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so that was when they got together with this collaborative. They got together with Mediator too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. And so what they did is they looked at their studies again. Okay. And Kahneman's research, everybody rated themselves. It was based on a Gallup poll information. Okay, so it was a large database. And actually both of them had very large databases. Okay, so large database, Gallup poll. Okay, and people would rate themselves at the end of the day. Did you have these unhappy feelings? Did you have these happy feelings? And from that, they created a score, and then they used their income. The Killingsworth actually used iPhone data and pinged people 3 times a day and said, how are you feeling right now? From very bad to very good. Okay. So this turned out to be the key factor. Was how were they measuring happiness, not about their income differences, okay? And so what ended up happening is they started looking at that around $100,000 mark, right? Like, because that seemed to be where the issues were. And they found that how they measured the happiness was the factor. That Kahneman, the original research, was kind of measured unhappiness a little better than it measured happiness. Okay, just because of the nature of the way they asked the questions. And then the later research again, and I don't know if cell phones were as available during the original research as they were during the second research, during Killingsworth's. They found that there was it was easier to really look at the happiness part and not just is it happy or unhappy? Does that make sense? So they had a better
More.
range of happiness scores.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that we experience this too. Like, you kind of there's a upside to happiness but the downside is like you can, if you're unhappy, very unhappy, extremely unhappy. That's it.
Yeah.
Versus happiness, there's a lot more
More
gradients.
degrees, yeah.
There's more gradients as you go up the scale, right?
Yeah.
So what they found is that it is that on this happiness around 100,000, the people who are unhappy don't get any happier with more money. Okay? But the people who are happy in general get happier.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? And the happiest people get even more happy than
Yeah.
the medium, the average happy person.
So with the original, when you're talking that 75,000 or 100,000 in today's dollars, measuring unhappiness slightly more than the level of happiness.
Right.
Well, listen, above that, I'm not going to get any happier necessarily
Right.
because that's my natural bent or that's how I'm reporting. Interesting.
Well, that brings up another issue that I thought was very interesting, is that it can be natural bent, but it also can be your circumstances. So it could be, it's not just the grumps, it could be bereavement, broken heart, and I think perhaps like clinical depression, but also like chronic illness. That I just know from my research that makes people unhappy.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, the other thing is that they caution people to pursue money for happiness because there's so many other things that actually have a bigger bang for your buck. Excuse me.
No pun
But
intended.
better, yeah, more impact on your happiness than your income, especially, yeah.
So income does influence happiness, but it's not on a scale. There's other things that are more powerful.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And same with unhappiness too. So for instance, the unhappiness brought on by a headache is worse than what you can really accomplish
Yeah.
with money. You know,
Yeah,
and if you
right.
think about it, that's true. Like how unhappy you are with a, decent headache.
Right.
With a, like that makes you unhappier. But things like getting married, having good social relationships, those elevate your happiness more, I believe, than, and I'm going out just on my memory here, than on how much money you're making.
Yeah, interesting.
That makes sense.
It's
And
interesting.
It's kind of easier.
Yeah.
As far as your effort goes.
As you think about the old adage, money can't buy happiness, right? And maybe and some of us accept that at face value. Some of us have challenged it and done research, right? The folks here and. But on a relative basis, compared to having good relationships or having or not having a headache, money is not going to buy your way out of those things.
Right.
Right. But the idea that money, isn't a factor seems to be really wrong. Is that no, money is a factor in happiness, just perhaps not as powerful a factor as some of those other things. Like I said, the headache is a great example. Like, yeah, I don't care how much money I have. If I have a headache, I'm pretty miserable, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm unhappy.
Right.
Another factor that I think is, and I'm just thinking of when we're talking about now, is some other researchers, Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton. They wrote a book called Happy Money. I think it was published in 2014. And one of the things that they found is that it doesn't like how much you give away, either to other people or as gifts, like donations, gifts, etc. They call it pro-social spending. That has a bigger influence on your happiness than how much you make.
Interesting.
And so that not exactly spending, but spending in a certain way matters.
So we've talked a little bit about these are super interesting. Some of the things that you take, and we of course in our world we hear about the $75,000 level or
Right.
100 in today's dollars, or like what it doesn't make you happy or it does. Evidence is that yes, as it goes up, the more money that you make or the more that you have, right? Perhaps is a similar thing. But it's not as impactful as other things such as relationships and physical health, those sorts of things. What's a takeaway or what's an action? Like, what do we do with this as we're thinking about this discussion here today?
Well, for me, it actually helps me figure out what to pursue. like how to spend my time. Like, so I can get a certain amount of happiness out of trying to make more money. Like, there's a certain amount of happiness to be had there. It
Yeah,
is.
it's valuable. It's useful.
Valuable, and there's also a feeling of accomplishment there. But then there's other ways that are kind of lower hanging fruit, like giving away better, having better relationships.
Yeah.
Actually, can so trying to figure out how to improve my relationships. And again, that's probably, I don't know which is easier, trying to make more money or improve my
Yeah,
relationships.
right.
But that again has a lot of potential for more happiness.
That idea of what to focus on, I
Yeah.
think, is really useful. The idea, and I know people that will say, hey, forget that money does buy. I want to focus on getting more money, and the idea of no, there's other places, and I know that you can, get to happiness, right? And I know other people that go, money's just not important. That doesn't make any difference. I'm good at focusing on my relationships, my
Right.
health, other things. And maybe if that's your take on things, you go, no, you know what? Focusing on the money in some fashion, having some focus on the money can be an improving factor in your
Right.
life. And if you're one that is focused on the money, maybe some of those other things become meaningful, and having balance, I guess,
Right.
as I say that out loud, is what I'm taking away.
Yeah, so with that, I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I'd love to hear viewer comments on this topic, actually. So scroll down and add a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you shoot me an email, that'd be great too. So the name of this show is Friends Talk Financial. I'm Financial Planning. I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shearer. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And as Bridget said, jot us a comment or shoot an email. Love to hear what you think about happiness and money. If you like what you hear on our show, Bridget as firm and my firm are both accepting new clients, but we're also members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners, a group of fee-only comprehensive planners nationwide. And you can find an advisor in your area by looking up acplanners.org.
And please subscribe.